Hey there, Erin Lee here of heavenlymessenger.com, bringing you this week's connection with intention. First of all, thank you so much for joining me, especially on such late notice. It's always a pleasure for me to be able to connect with you in this way, and I'm grateful for the time that you're taking out of your day to be here with me. As always, it seems that getting onto the show in the evening is a little bit rushed. I noticed that we only have a couple of people joining us so far. I would love to hear from you right now and let me know if you're hearing any feedback from the second camera that I have on. I'm just going to add this camera to the stream. We did it the last time as well, where you're able to see the card that I have. And one of the issues I was running into this evening was that there might be a little bit of feedback. So if you could pop in, oh, awesome. I see Angie's saying it sounds good. So my fingers are crossed that you aren't getting any feedback. And Marissa too. Sweet. All right. We're going to just carry on then. So this evening, I really wanted to talk about boundaries, and particularly boundaries as a sensitive person. This is something that I was reminded of earlier today, and it's one of the things that I teach in my intuitive development course when we focus on clairsentience. So clairsentience is one of the 4 primary ways that we receive intuitive messages and information. And I know from having spoken with many of you and with the questions that you ask that many of you are clairsentient as well. So clairsentience means receiving messages and information through feeling, so either physical sensation or picking up on emotion. One aspect of clairsentience is being empathic. And so people who are strongly clairsentient or empathic often find that they pick up on other people's stuff significantly. And boundaries are one of the biggest keys to being able to continue to function in our world as an empathic person. And one of the ways that we need to be aware of our boundaries as people who are clairsentient and empathic is in our energy, in the energy that we give to other people, to friends, to family, to our own minds, like to the things that we're thinking about. And one of the analogies I use is your energy as being like a monetary unit in your bank account. So I'm just going to use really simple numbers. I know here in BC, if I said you had $1,000 in your bank account and that was going to be enough to cover like rent and food and car and everything else, people would just sit there and laugh at me because that's not the reality for most of us here in BC. But just to keep things simple, that's what I'm going to use. So let's say you have $1,000 in your bank account and you're like, wow, that's awesome. I've got $1,000 in my bank account. What am I going to go out and do with that money and with that energy? And you might say, well, I'm going to go out with friends. I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to go do this, that, and the other thing. And that's what I'm going to do. Then it comes around time that you need to pay rent and you need to buy groceries. And all of a sudden, even though you had $1,000 in your bank account, you no longer have that because you've spent it on doing other things that you really enjoy and that you want to do. But now there isn't any money to pay for your rent or car insurance or food or whatever else you need to support yourself. So just because you have money in the bank account doesn't mean that you can do with it whatever you want. So let's say you have that same $1,000 in your bank account and you're like, you know what? This is great. I can pay my rent. I can pay for all of the things that I need to pay for. And I'm still going to have $200 left over because the world that we're living in this moment is really magical, where $800 will cover all of your expenses. And your friend says to you, hey, let's go do this thing. It's going to cost $300. And you're like, okay, well, $300, I have 200 of that. I could go into my overdraft a little. I have enough room in my overdraft that I could do that. And so maybe you do that. But when it comes around time for next paycheck, you're going to get your $1,000 top up, and suddenly you're going to be $100 shy because you spent that extra $100. Now, maybe that's okay because you had extra $200 last time. Maybe it's going to be all right, but maybe it's not. And so sometimes we have to think about what that is. So sometimes, even though we have the energy, whatever is being asked of us doesn't necessarily make sense for us to do it. One, because it's going to be more energy than we have to give, or two, because it's going to put us into a deficit situation that we're not ready to deal with. Sometimes there are things where even if you're already in a deficit, you need to do it. I had an experience several years ago where a friend of mine was in a really tragic, sudden, traumatic place. And it didn't matter that I wasn't okay. She needed somebody to be there, and it was big. It was that big. And so you put yourself into that deficit because you need to. But when you put yourself into deficit, you need to be aware that you're going to have to pay that back at some point in order to come back into balance and alignment. It's okay to say no. If something isn't going to serve you and it's going to put you into bad deficit, it's okay to say no. And this is one of the ways in which boundaries starts to come into play. But on top of that, with boundaries, it's important to recognize what your needs are. So, with the things that we were talking about earlier, it was really straightforward. Like, you need to pay your rent, you need to pay your insurance, you need to buy your food, because those are like the things that you need to function and survive. But we didn't talk about the fun things. Life can't all be about like work and the survival. There needs to be a little bit something else. And that's where things can get kind of out of control, particularly when you have people who are wanting to help and to support others. So I share this example with you because this example came up really strongly for me earlier today, and it felt like it was important to share. So if you are somebody who is a helper and a healer and you just want to give, you just want to love and support, pay attention to this message. If you know that you are clairsentient, know that boundaries are going to be really important for you, and start exploring where those boundaries might be. We've talked about boundaries in the past as well, as something that we use to support ourselves in our healing journey. So often we'll put up boundaries because we've recognized that we have been hurt or we have overextended ourselves, if we're going to use this example that we're talking about. But often we use boundaries because we recognize that beyond that boundary is somewhere where we've experienced hurt and pain and challenge. And so, in the moment, in the time that we're in, that boundary serves us because it's preventing us from continuing to be in pain or continuing to be out of balance. And it creates a safe space for ourselves to start healing and to start balancing. Over time, that boundary may no longer serve us and support us in keeping us safe. It could be restraining us too far in and not allowing us to explore. Because eventually, as you go through that healing process, you're not going to need that boundary anymore. Or possibly you won't need that boundary anymore. Possibly it's a boundary that you've hit over and over and over again. And you know what? That's just what I need for myself. I know myself. I understand myself. That's my boundary. That's my line. And over time, you'll discover that and that will work. But sometimes there are boundaries that we need to push and challenge because having the boundary is no longer keeping us safe. It's actually hurting and harming us because we're not allowing ourselves to move forward. So boundaries can be really beautiful, powerful tools, especially for those of us who are clairsentient. So I see that we've got lots of people on this evening. I'm super excited to see all of you. Remember, if you're asking a question this evening, please be specific. If you want me to use a particular card, please mention it with the question that you're asking. I'll quickly go through and share these. And we're also going to do a Choose Your Adventure crystal reading this evening too. So the blue deck that we have here, this is the Mermaids and Dolphins. The yellow deck is the Archangel Oracle card deck, and the green deck, oops, he's a little stuck behind my microphone. The green deck is the Messages from Your Angels Oracle card deck. Yes, so I'm just going to flash up our Choose Your Adventure crystal doodad up here. So I actually had a different one in mind for this evening, but technology has been a little bit glitchy for me recently. We're still in the tail end of Mercury retrograde. I'm going to go with that. And I'm trusting that these are the crystals that we need for the evening. So I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not, but on the left side, we have malachite, clear quartz, and smoky quartz. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is think of a question. And I mean, if you would like, you can choose a question for each of the three crystals, have at her. If you don't have a specific question, you can always ask, what do I need to know right now? So, take a moment, ask your question, choose a crystal that will represent the question that you're asking. Again, we have malachite, clear quartz, and smoky quartz. And we're going to choose a card from each of the decks here. So I'll keep that up. So we're just going to ask, what do the people who are choosing malachite need to know? We've got one. And what do the people who are choosing clear quartz need to know? Oh, we've got two there. And what do the people who are choosing smoky quartz need to know? Okay. And I must have pressed something because we lost our picture, but that's okay. I am actually going to throw up our card cam. This is kind of fun. All right. So the first card that we have is actually for the malachite, for people who chose malachite. So the card that we have here is have faith. So this card is all about forward movement. It's definitely a card of trust. We're moving up and out of water that is turbulent, and you can't really see it because of the way my lighting is hitting it. There we go. But you'll notice that there is that this beautiful mermaid is coming up and out of the water, and there are these gorgeous clouds that are around her heart, and her face is up. It's moving up into the light. This is a card and a time of transformation. Malachite as a crystal is definitely a transformation crystal. It brings lots of power. It tends to be things that we're healing around our heart. This is not a time when things are moving slowly, or we are working at a lot of depth. So if you're saying to me, Erin, things feel like they are moving very, very slowly, then look to see where the depth is, because it is definitely a very deep card, or pardon me, a deep crystal that you can go in with. And we've got the energy of our mermaid coming up and out of the water. There's lots of power, but the message, the overall message is to have faith. Things might feel challenging right now, but it's important to keep moving forward. It's important to keep looking up, to seeing where the support and the opportunity is for you. So keep breathing, keep moving forward. And I'm also hearing Archangel Haniel coming up really strongly for people who have chosen the Malachite card as well. So Archangel Haniel is one of the angels who works very strongly with the moon, the energies of the moon. So make sure that you hop on some full moon releasing that we have. I believe that the full moon is around the 17th this month. So that's just a little over a week away. So lots of transformation that's happening for you. So as I said, we have two cards that popped out for us. Oops, I keep hitting the doodad here. Sorry about that, guys. So we had two cards that were popping out for the clear quartz people. We have both outdoors and gentleness. So if you chose the clear quartz, that was the one in the middle. Part of what you need to do right now is be gentle. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with anybody else who is involved in the situation that you may have been asking about. Now is not the time to push and force. Now is the time to look for the path of least resistance. How can I best support myself right now? How can I best support the other people in this situation right now? This is not a time for push. If you are experiencing resistance, pull back and reassess. Ask yourself, is there something that I'm missing? Is there something else that is more important that I need to be focusing on? Maybe do I need to be getting outside and connecting with nature? Because that's the other aspect and element of the message that we have coming up for you this evening, is to make sure that you're taking time to be outside, to ground with the energy of the earth, to connect with all of the elements, whether it's earth, air, wind, or fire, if you are drawn, if you're in a place where it's safe to have fire right now. Finding the beauty in being outside. Archangel Jophiel really is drawn to making things beautiful. So whether it's helping you to clear your space or to finding beauty in nature and the things that are around you, call on Archangel Jophiel and ask her for help and support in seeing the beauty in the moment that you're in the situation that you're in. And if you're caught up in your thoughts and they are challenging or negative, ask Archangel Jophiel, rather, to help you and support you in finding the beauty in the moment that you're in right now. All right. And the last card that we have here is for the people who chose Smoky Quartz. And the card that we have is Teresa. And I'm actually just going to read the message she has. Time out. You've been so busy taking care of everyone else's needs, but now it's time to stop and take care of yourself. This is the biggest self-care card in this deck and actually in any of the decks that I'm using this evening. This card says, slow right down. You have been putting so much time, energy, and support into helping and supporting other people or focusing on other things. Now it's time for you to make sure that you are slowing down and taking care of yourself. I'm reminded that sometimes this card will come up for people and they'll say, Erin, I haven't been doing anything. I've been sick or I've been exhausted or I'm feeling really depleted, so I haven't been doing anything. I'm like, I don't know how else I can do even less than what I'm doing. This card comes up because it's time for you to move into even deeper self-care. Now, self-care doesn't necessarily mean going for massages and bubble baths or sea salt baths would be really ideal for self-care. There are lots of things that we kind of have in our mind that self-care can be, but self-care can be other things too. Self-care can be working on the things that you've been procrastinating on. Self-care can be preparing your taxes or paying your bills or cleaning up your home. So there are a lot of different ways that we can focus on self-care that are actually very active things. And sometimes when we've been in a place where we haven't been doing a lot because we've been self-caring in the really gentle and nurturing ways, that we haven't been active. So we can be active and proactive in our self-care. Self-care can be meal prep and meal planning. So self-care isn't always something that is indulgent. Sometimes it is doing the things that we need to support ourselves so that we can be our best and most vibrant selves. And as I said, it's not always something that is really cozy and comfy and enjoyable. Sometimes it's getting the stuff done that needs to be done. All right. So I see we do have lots of people on and lots of questions on. Let me just pop this off here. One thing that I'm feeling the need to remember and to remind as well, sometimes we get people who are spamming for readings in the comments, and I don't see them until the end. So if you have somebody who's offering readings, I mean, obviously you are more than welcome to do whatever you feel is best, but know that they aren't connected with me and that often when people do connect with these people who are spamming for readings, they're not really in integrity. So do what you will, and I go through and I'll clean them up after. And also I will pause all of at the end of the recording this evening, I will make it so that people can't comment on it anymore. And that just prevents people from spamming you if you do comment during the show. So we'll go through and say hello to everybody. Hi, Ange and Kathy. It's so good to see you both. Tanya, hello. Jessica, Marissa, Elizabeth. Oh, awesome. And I see lots of people popped on to let me know that the sound was okay. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Marilyn, hello. And Fern and Susan and Cameron, Jen, Carrie, hello. Cindy, Margaret, hi. Elizabeth and Kimberly and Becky and Marissa and Michelle. We've got Angie and Catherine and Sue. Hello, everybody. Let me see. Where else? I believe Kiyomi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Welcome. And Becky and Kareen. Hello. And Tanya, Claudia, Angie, it's so wonderful to see you all this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. So I want to make sure that we get to as many people and as many readings as possible. So I'm just going to jump in. And one thing that I should mention, I see that I've got a couple of people who have joined us this evening, and I know that I have emails from you sitting in my email box. Please know that I will be getting back to you this week. I ended up having to take a couple of weeks off just to get my energy back up, and I'm just starting to get back into the swing of things. So my apologies for the delay, and do know that I have seen you. If you're feeling the need and the draw, feel free to reach out to me again. I will be getting back to emails this week. So Ange, let me see. So Ange is saying, Graham has has asked me to go to Mexico with him in a few weeks. This has never happened, but feels so great. I'm getting lots of yes signs. Given our history, I'm a bit nervous if it'll happen or not. Do you see us going the beginning of March? Okay, so let's just ask about Ange and Graham going to Mexico at the beginning of March. Actually, yes, because when I ask if for some reason the middle of March was popping up as being significant, and I'm not sure if that maybe has to do with what the kids do when they stop school, spring break. But what I'm seeing is that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at the beginning of March. So that is feeling like that is a positive time for the two of you to go. A part of what I'm seeing is lots of stuff being sorted out. So I don't know if either of you has a plan for the time that you would be spending together, if there are certain things that you're wanting to talk about or to address or to look at, but it does feel like something is being sorted out. And I'm feeling really good about it, really positive. I've got a bit of heartbreak that's coming up in my heart, and I'm wanting to encourage you to make sure that you delve into that. It feels like it's something that's present right now. And it may have to do with the history that the two of you have gone through. So if there is anything that's coming up around like concern around it not happening or not going the way that you want it to, make sure that you work on that now before you go into going away together. That's feeling really significant. So I'm drawn to the Mermaids and Dolphins Oracle card deck for you. So we're just going to ask, what does Ange need to know about Mexico with Graham at the beginning of March, rather? So I'll just pop up our doodad here. Haha. So the card that we have is Synchronicity, and that's a really powerful card to come up, just in general, but particularly with the question you've asked, and especially since you've mentioned that there have been a lot of yes signs that are coming up for you. So synchronicity is one of those new age words that tends to be used a lot, but people don't necessarily have a really strong understanding of what it means. So synchronicities happen when there are things that are outside of yourself that you don't have any control over, that are happening and or that you're noticing that have significant meaning to you. So for example, and this is, one of the ways that we receive intuitive messages as well, one of the ways we receive clairaudient messages. But let's say you're thinking, I wonder if I should do this thing, and you turn on the radio and the announcer on the radio is saying, yes, yes, yes. You had no control over what the announcer was saying. You had no foreknowledge to the fact that there was going to be an announcer on saying anything. I mean, when you turn on the radio, it could have been somebody, or it could have been a song rather. And you were thinking about a question, and then literally you have the answer. And that's what synchronicity is. And this card says the more that you start to pay attention to synchronistic events, the more that they will start happening, the easier it is to get into that synchronistic flow, where it's one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And when you're in synchronistic flow, it kind of reminds me of somebody who's going really gracefully and easily across the monkey bars. And I say gracefully and easily because even as a kid, I could not do the monkey bars to save my life. But my younger sister was like a little monkey. She was such a gymnast, and she would go effortlessly across the monkey bars. And that's what being in synchronicity is like. It's from one bar and swinging and having the momentum to go to the next bar and to the next bar and to the next bar, rather than being like me on the monkey bars, both as a child and now, where it's like, I'm just trying to hold on. We're not going anywhere. I'm just, praying that I'm not going to fall flat on my face. So, you are in synchronistic flow. I see this as being confirmation of that, and that things are coming together. So continue to notice and be aware of the synchronistic events to help maintain the flow that you're experiencing. And it feels like it just flows you right down to Mexico. And it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. All right, let me see. Where is our next question? Oh, you guys were so awesome. Thank you so much for everybody for letting me know that the sound was okay. Okay, we've got Carrie here. Hi, Carrie. Thanks for joining us. Carrie's wondering about advice for future business offerings, i.e. events, workshops, etc. Okay, let's take a look and see what we've got coming up for you. So when I ask, everything feels like it's kind of pulling in to yourself. So when you're asking, the energy that I have is like we're reaching out and we're picking and we're grabbing. And like the reaching is the feeling that I have. But what I'm seeing is it feels like you are drawing and bringing that in. So it's less about putting energy into what is there and what is available and more into, okay, well, I've got this swirling energy going around, like what's going to come to me, what's going to manifest. So it feels to me like you are on the right track and the right path. And I am seeing all of the things that you've mentioned being part of the path and the journey that you're on. It's almost like the question is less about what am I going to be doing and more about what is the order that I'm going to be doing these things in. It feels to me and it feels like you've got both. Like we've got workshops. I'm wanting to talk about courses and classes as well. So, like a differentiation for me, a workshop to me is something that you would do over an extended period of time, like a big chunk of time, say like a weekend, where a class might be something that you're doing in like in a small snippet over like a couple of days or possibly just like a one off like an hour or 2 hours, where a course would be something that you might be doing over a significant extended period of time with several snippets and possibly like bigger chunks as well. So I'm seeing actually all of those things. And so it doesn't feel like it's just events. It doesn't feel like it's just workshops. It feels like there's a lot that you are sharing and creating. I'm wanting to encourage you to also focus on things that other people are doing as well. And so it could be things that you are participating in. And so, like, for example, with the work that I do, I could put on an event, like I could put on like a psychic reading fair, or I could say, I want to participate in an event, but I don't want to be the organizer of it. And it feels like that's part of the energy that's coming up for you as well. I do see like promoting and putting things out, but it feels like you're going to be in a place of being more of a participant as opposed to an organizer. And I'm wanting to kind of balance some of that energy because there's a lot that you have to share, that you're giving, that you're putting out there, but it feels like you're picking and choosing how you're sharing that energy and what you're putting the energy into. And I don't know why the word shame is coming up, but I'm hearing there's no shame in having somebody else do the work for you, when it's something that you're able to participate in, to learn, to grow. And I'm seeing exposure being part of the benefit of that as well. So we're going to go to the Archangel Oracle card deck. And I'm just going to ask what messages are coming up for Carrie around for future business offerings. And I'm hearing timeline as well, which is interesting. And what's really interesting is this is actually a card that we've already seen this evening. So we went to the Archangel Oracle card deck, and the message, the card that we have coming up is the Outdoors card. This is Archangel Jophiel. And so what that says to me, first of all, this is a card that's encouraging you to get outside, to connect with nature, to really immerse yourself in that experience. And so it feels like there's a lot of time that has been spent up here in your head. And what they're saying is that there's need for more time to be experiencing life in your physical body, in the physical environment, and to make sure that you are grounding and rooting and connecting with nature. I'm also hearing like vacation, time off, a little bit of a break. It feels like things have been busy and on the go, and that there is this need to take a bit of space and a bit of time away to really clear thoughts and to shift perspective, because there's a lot of energy that's been going in a particular direction and it's needing to be redirected. And part of what I'm hearing is that that's one of the things that one of the tools. I'm going to call this a tool. It's one of the tools that you're using to evaluate where your time, your energy, and your resources need to be going, not only from a business perspective, but from a personal perspective as well. So before you do any really big life review things, make sure you take a little bit of a break first, because it feels like it really helps to shift the perspective that you have on the direction that you need to go. And I've got the spring coming up as being really significant, but that's also feeling really early and really soon. So I'm going to call this later spring because it really feels like you're needing a bit of disconnect time. And I'm seeing something that looks like potentially up to like 4 weeks even. I do see that there's something else that's going on that you're putting energy into, so it doesn't feel like you're not doing anything, like you're not moving forward, but you need to switch gears for just a little bit, and that really helps with perspective and overall enjoyment. Carrie, it was such a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love, and support your way. Awesome. Let me see. So next we have, hellos from let me see. And I see Elizabeth here has commented, or someone gives you money and wants to manage how it's spent. I think that that's probably going back to our talk that we had earlier. Yeah, that's definitely a really big boundary, is, recognizing people's motives when they give you something, whether that's money or something else. Okay, so we've got Jen here. Hi, Jen. I'm so glad you popped on this evening. Jen's saying that she's relisting my space. Any advice? Short-term, 3-bedroom until I get my remortgage done, which I'm told not to wait until June. Rates going up soon, so sooner the better on that too. Any hiccups on anything above? Yeah, absolutely. I would say definitely take a look. If you're looking at remortgaging, now is the time to do it, and that's coming more from having heard that we've got interest rates going up here in Canada. So if you're thinking about remortgaging, the sooner the better feels really good. When I ask about relisting your space, that's feeling really positive. I want to encourage you to go through and clear stuff out, and that feels like that's happening not only on an emotional level, but also an energetic level too. So if you have any tools that you use to clear out your space, you can call somebody in and they can do some smudging for you. You can go through and set some intentions. You can go through and like physically clean your space, open your windows with the intention to let out anything that no longer serves you. But a big part of what I have coming up for you feels like it's on an emotional level. And this was a story that I was going to share a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't able to post it on Facebook because I just didn't have the energy to put it out there. But I'm reminded of an experience that I went through many years ago. This was back in 2006 when I was just getting started with the work that I'm doing right now. And basically, I was working full time, and it was a really wonderful opportunity, but it just wasn't where my heart was. And I decided that I was going to start doing this work. So I took a medical leave of absence from my work because that was just where I was. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take my savings and I'm going to start up my business. And the teacher that I had at the time was really amazing. She said, Erin, you can use my office space. I don't work on these days, so you can come down to Nanaimo, which is about an hour, a little more than, away from where I was living at the time. And so for about 6 weeks, I drove down to Nanaimo. I went on a Tuesday. I stayed overnight. I slept in her office. And then I was there on Wednesday. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays were the days that I was offering readings and working towards establishing my practice. And I invested a lot of time, energy, and money and resources, not only in like going down and spending time down there away from home, not being able to cook my meals, to like promotions and advertising that I was doing there too. And I didn't have any clients. And it was week 6, and it was the Tuesday evening. I'd been down there. I'd been there for 12 days at this point, and nothing was happening. And I said, Angels, you told me that I was supposed to be here, that I was supposed to be doing this work, but I can't afford to put anything more into this. It's so funny. This money theme is coming up this evening. I said, I can't afford to put anything more in this. I need to have a paying client tomorrow, or that's it. I'm giving up. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I was so clear with what it was that I needed from the universe. The next day, this man walks up the stairs. And so to put this in perspective, I was on the 2nd floor of a building right downtown in Nanaimo. And there was literally a 30 very steep staircase that this man walked up. And he said, I'm not really sure why I'm here. I was just drawn to come upstairs and to find out what was happening up here. I saw your sign downstairs and it was really intriguing. And I just knew that I had to come up here. And that person ended up being my first paid my first paid client, my first paid reading. But I really was at the point where I was going to stop. I was literally going to have to do something else, not only from a financial point of view, but just from an energy point of view too. And part of what I'm hearing for you, Jen, is that you need to be really clear with what it is that you want, what you're willing to accept, and be ready to make a shift and a change if that doesn't come about. So talk to your angels. And when I say talk to your angels, I mean talk to your angels as if they are not only your best friend, which means that you can say anything to them. You can swear, you can cry. And like when I say cry, like really ugly cry, like with snot, excuse my language, snot coming down your face and like mascara running and like just full on blotchy, like cry, get it out, get angry, whatever it is that you're feeling, talk to them, give it to them. And do it with the expectation that they can do something about the circumstances and the situation that you're in. There is no point in you holding on to something when they can help and support you with it. Give it completely over and then give it some time and space, and things will start happening. So I do feel that you're heading in the right direction. You're on the right path. Just do those two things. Clear out the energy in your space and clear out your heart. And that has to do with any of the fear or the frustration that you may have been dealing with listing it for the third time, with the question about, is this going to work? Put it all out there. Okay, so we're asking, what does Jen need to know about moving forward? That's the way that I'm going to put it is, of course it is. What does Jen need to know about moving forward? So I'm laughing because the card that we have here, I hope you guys can see that, is the Divine Magic card. And basically this is the most powerful card in this deck. If we were pulling more than one card, it would magnify the messages of all of the cards around it. It is just like, miracles are happening. Believe, just put your faith into what you are wanting to happen. To me, this is another confirmation of everything that we've just shared, that things are happening, they are coming together, but there's a need to release, to let go, and to just say, maybe something is coming that I can't imagine yet, I can't see yet, but it is this or something better. It is what I'm affirming, what I am creating, or it's something even better than I can imagine. So you're definitely on the right track. Do what feels best and right for you in your heart. And so for me, like that's those logical choices and decisions that you're talking about making in terms of like remortgaging, definitely follow that. But once you've got that off of your plate, where am I going next? What's happening next? These are the fears. These are the things that I want to do. Like you're showing me that I need to be here and I'm doing what I need to do. How do I, help me to make it happen? Because I can't make these things happen. I need your help. And that's basically how you approach it and how you move forward. And you're on it. Jen, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. And I just want to thank you guys for humoring me with all of the stories that I've been sharing this evening. Awesome. And Kimberly, hello. It's wonderful to see you, and Becky too. I'm so glad that you were able to join us live again this evening too. It's such a pleasure connecting with you. Okay, so we've got Marissa here. Hi, Marissa. Wondering any advice on my personal membership offering through Breathe, i.e., would it be better offered for a specific term or ongoing monthly? Okay. So as soon as I ask about that, I'm literally in a tug of war with myself. So I see what you're feeling. And it's interesting because I almost feel like it's like a flossing movement and not flossing as in dancing, but like literally what I'm seeing is like a tug of war is like this back and forth, but it's almost like there's something in between and it's like you're flossing around it and it's almost like you're cutting through it. Um, and basically what I'm seeing is that you're doing both. It feels like you've got a membership that is something that renews on a monthly basis. And it feels like, okay, so part of the challenge that I'm seeing coming up with the membership is making sure that you have content that's coming up. And it feels like that might be part of the challenge that's coming up for you in terms of being able to create your own content to like justify isn't the word that I really want to use, but to make sure that you always have something that's there. So part of what I'm seeing is I'm seeing you bringing people in or lining people up to have something that you're doing every month that feels like it's something that's engaging your clientele. And from that perspective, it feels like the monthly membership works really well. I'm also seeing an offering that looks like it's like a specific term. So, for example, maybe you have something that you're offering and it's about a month. I keep seeing things happening in a month time frame. And so you have like tickets or you have sales that are geared towards like that monthly thing. And it feels like it's being charged at a rate that is greater than the monthly subscription that you have. And then I see the monthly subscription, and it doesn't feel like you're the only one who is offering things. It feels like you're slotting people in different ways. Though I do see that there is a general formula that you're using in terms of like putting content out, and it feels like that consistency that your membership they kind of get accustomed to it, and it feels really comfortable. So, for example, maybe the first week is like something that's introductory, and there's something that you're learning and you're getting more deeply into. And then the second week is like a new aspect and element. And the third week is something else. And the fourth week, you're like pulling everything together. And maybe that's the format and the formula that each of your month courses is using. With that, I'm also hearing that there is benefit to a pause and a break. So possibly instead of doing something that's 4 weeks long, maybe you have something that's 3 weeks long, and every month you have something that is some form of review that wraps things up. It brings like a gentleness. It gives a bit of space before you jump into the next 1 month series. Again, I'm seeing that it's really important that it not just be you, but that you have other people and that you line it up. And it feels like in having like 3 or 4 months in advance, people are able to say, yeah, like I want to get a quarterly membership, or I'm like, there's enough that's going on that I'm really interested in, I'm really into that. It makes sense for me to do the month to month, but I'm also, as I said, I'm seeing you doing the other two. So it feels like it's a really beautiful balance. But part of what you're doing is, as I said, you're developing some form of format that works for you. And again, I would have a pause at the end. And it feels like you are working with people that are helping to kind of fall into and fit into this basic scheme that you have, and that works really well to roll over and to roll forward. I'm also hearing that things are going to be pre-recorded, but there are also going to be aspects that are live that people are participating in as well, but not every day. This feels like this is something that's happening at the beginning, partway through, at the end, and maybe something else. So like in a 3-week journey, it feels like there are pre-recorded aspects that are being shared that people that are walking people through. And then there are other things that are happening that are focused more on like live event, live gathering, and it's feeling really powerful and really beautiful. So we're just going to ask, what does Marissa need to know about breathe? And the card that literally flipped out for us and fell out for us is the self-employment card. So see this as confirmation and validation of the work that you're doing right now, that you are on the right track, you are on the right path. Things are happening around you to help support you with your self-employment journey. One of the things I'm hearing, we've got a lot of sharing that's coming up this evening, you guys. Again, when I first started doing readings and I was just getting going, it was a lot for me to do a reading in a day. And it took a really long time for me to build up my energy and my reserves and to understand how my energy worked in order to support myself and to support the people I was working with. And so I would have like a reading every day for like 7 days, and then I would be exhausted. And so I would take time off, and I would take time off not because I was planning to do things, but just because I was so incredibly drained. And that time off ended up becoming longer and longer and longer because I was really worried about who was coming up next in my appointment book. Like, how was I going to continue to support myself? And I become, more stressed and then have more challenge with my energy because of this uncertainty. And so I'd need longer to take off, and it would take longer and longer for me to be ready to do work and readings. When I discovered that the best thing for me to do was to make sure that I took time off every week without fail. I had 2 days a week at first. I found that actually the best for me is to have 3 days a week that are off, that are mine, and to work the other 4 days and work longer hours. And when I did that, suddenly it didn't matter the fact that I was taking time off because my schedule was booked for the next week. And so it feels like that's part of what you are learning right now is from a self-employment point of view, what works best for your energy? What is the balance that you need in order to support yourself? How much are you able to put out? How much are you able to work on the back end of things? Because anytime that you're offering like some sort of teaching or sharing or like some sort of platform, there's a lot of energy that goes into like building and creating and maintaining that platform. And it has an impact on what you have to put out and to give. So it feels like that's a big part of the energy that you're in right now is learning to support yourself moving forward. Marissa, it is always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love, and support your way. All right. Let me see. So Elizabeth's popped on. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us. And Elizabeth, I noticed earlier had mentioned something else. And she says, I appreciate this topic. I have someone who stresses me every time I give them time. I don't know how to manage this relationship. I don't think that you've specifically asked a question, but I do want to address it because it feels really significant, not only for you, but I'm also hearing for other people as well. Okay. So I have someone who stresses me every time I give them time. So it feels like when I ask about this person, it feels like there is some sort of challenge or difficulty in creating that space in the relationship. And it feels like it feels like even thinking about and talking about this person, I'm feeling the drain. So even though they aren't specifically asking for energy right now or interaction right now, it feels like there is just kind of this unconscious drain on your time and your energy and your resources just thinking about them. Again, it feels like this is a relationship that you're not able to like just cut and say, that's it, I'm done. I'm seeing that there is some form of obligation, whether it is, I want to say true or perceived, which is not the right way to put it. But it feels to me like there is at the very minimum, that there is the perception that there is a need to maintain some aspect of this relationship. But I'm seeing you having things in place. Like, for example, looking at, if you talk with this person on the phone and that's one of the ways that you interact with them, and one of the things that is draining, have a limit for yourself. I'm only going to talk to this person for 5 minutes and then, or 10 minutes or whatever. Or as soon as I start to feel that my energy is shifting, and then, oh, I need to go. Something's happening. Somebody's at the door. I need to go. And it feels like you have these, you're working towards having built in supports to withdraw, or establishing at the beginning, hey, I'm glad that I can talk with you. I have 10 minutes to talk with you, and then I have to go and do something else. Or one thing that I find with people in situations that can be really draining is I start to find that my energy gets stuck. So like when we go into fight, flight, or freeze, it's like I get stuck, I freeze, and it's just kind of like the energy just kind of keeps pumping out. And so one of the things I do is suggest, okay, well, let's shift and change our activity. So often if we're sitting, like if we've gone for a meal or for a tea or a coffee or something like that, it'll be like, okay, well, let's go and do something else now. And that can be enough of a break to break that cycle that I'm in, that I'm able to either balance myself so I can either continue with the person, or there's enough of a break and a shift that I'm able to say, oh man, something's come up, I have to go. Or I've realized that there's something that I need to get done, but it was really great spending time with you and being with you. So find the ways that you can create breaks for yourself in the connection that you have. And it feels like from that perspective, you're better able to manage it. Another thing you can do is you can call on your angels and you can ask for help and support in interacting and dealing with this person. There was something else that I was hearing that's just kind of slipped my mind. Um, I'm going back to the comment that you made around money being given or lent with some sort of stipulation or some sort of attachment to it. And part of what you could do is say, what are your expectations when you give this to me? And really be clear. Sometimes we're not wanting to have those conversations to get that clarity, but it feels like that's going to be something that is helpful and significant for you. And then the other thing you can do is protect your energy. And this, again, is really important for people and can be really helpful for people as they're learning to navigate being a clairsentient person or being an empathic person. And so, one of the things you can do is you can put an energy bubble around yourself. And I really like to make mine pink. You can choose any color. And my intention with my energy bubble is that anything that is positive and loving is welcome to come on through, and that can feed and energize and support me. Anything that is negative or that's trying to take from me something that I am not willing to give or I am not able to give, anything of that type of energy hits my energy bubble and it is bounced back and it's transmuted into love. You see, when somebody is throwing something negative at us, rather than throwing negativity back, which is just going to perpetuate more negativity, we can ask that that energy be transmuted back into love with the hope and the intention that that's going to be part of what that person needs in order to support themselves. Like they were throwing negativity out for a reason. They weren't feeling loved. They weren't feeling they had the attention that they needed. Maybe it goes back to something that has absolutely nothing to do with you. But there was a need that was there. And love can fulfill a lot of needs. So we ask that that energy be transmuted and sent back as love. And I make the stipulation that it's something that we can use at the beginning of our journey, because this is part of what I was taught way back when I was doing my training, and that was quite a long time ago. And what we're actually seeing now is that there's a lot of benefit to raising your own energy and vibration to a point where like that negative stuff, it just kind of falls off and falls away. So I know a lot of people practice that rather than having any sort of shielding or bubbling or protection. They're like, I'm focusing on raising my energy and vibration to where it needs to be. And that is great and awesome. But I kind of see this as being very similar to living a healthy lifestyle. It is really great if you are in a place in your life that healthy lifestyle is enough to help and to continue to support the good health that you're already in. But sometimes people are in a place where they aren't in good health, and just saying, well, healthy lifestyle is going to be the thing that turns your life around is maybe not something that's realistic. And maybe you need something outside of yourself to help to support you to come into a place of health so you can continue on with healthy lifestyle with lifestyle changes. There is no shame in needing a little bit of help and a little bit of support. And this is one of the ways that you can get that. Elizabeth, I want to pull a card for you, and we're just going to ask the big guys. I'm going to the Archangel Oracle card deck, and we're just going to ask what messages are coming up for Elizabeth around. I want to ask about not this specific person. I'm just asking for you in general. What do you need to know right now? Oh, this is really interesting. So the card that we have is Clairaudience, and I missed it. Oh, this is Archangel Zadkiel. So Clairaudience is one of the 4 primary ways that we receive intuitive messages and information. It means literally clear hearing, which means that we're receiving messages in an auditory way. So sometimes that manifests for people in hearing their own internal voice, or hearing a voice outside of themselves, or hearing a voice that isn't their own. And one of the things that really differentiates this from mental unwellness, because that's often a concern for people when they start hearing voices, is that the voices that you hear will always be positive, they will always be supportive, they will always be uplifting. Never will they tell you to hurt yourself or to hurt someone else. And that is the biggest differentiation. You might not necessarily hear the message that you want to hear, but what you hear will come with the energy of feeling loved, of feeling supported, and the feeling that I can do this. I know that this is maybe not something that I want to do, or it's not something that I want to hear, but I know that I can take the next steps that this action is encouraging me to take. The other way that auditory messages will come through for people is in song lyrics. And I had the most beautiful experience with this the other day. I don't do a lot of mediumship, but I did have a loved one who was coming through for my client last week. And I just kept hearing, "You are my sunshine." And for my client, this was a really significant song with this person. And so, clairaudient messages can come through in song lyrics. It can come through in songs. It can come through in things that you're hearing outside of yourself. It can come through in terms of like hearing a song on the radio that really speaks to something that you're focusing on. Often people who are musically inclined, they do tend to be very highly clairaudient. Often the things that we are drawn to for our passions and our hobbies are the ways in which we are very strongly in tune with intuition and psychic ability as well. So really make sure you're paying attention to the things that you're hearing. And oh gosh, the other aspect of this card is to pay attention to what you are consuming through an auditory channel. So going back to this person, one of the ways that they might drain you is in like talk, or the things that they talk about are really negative or repetitive, or they tear you down. This is really encouragement to make sure that you are focusing on the things that you are consuming where you have choice and ability to make change. So for example, rather than listening to music that maybe has really strong lyrics that pull you down, focus on listening to music that's positive and upbeat, that has really loving messages. Same if you're watching television programs, because there's definitely an auditory component to that. So focusing on watching and interacting and engaging with shows that have positive messages, that have positive interactions back and forth between the characters. Really focus on the words that people share with you that are positive and uplifting and supportive. Elizabeth, I'm so glad that you joined us this evening. And again, I don't know that that was necessarily a question that you were asking, but it fit in so beautifully. I'm really grateful. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. And I have to thank you all again. I've been spending a lot of time on each individual reading this evening, but there's been a lot of extra information that's been coming up. And so I hope that you're finding value with it. Let me see. So we've got lots of people choosing their crystals. Okay, so we've got, again, I hope that I'm pronouncing your name properly, Kiyomi, I hope. And Kiyomi has asked, do you have any messages for me in regards to my renovation project at work? Yes, so it feels like there's some aspect of it that is already starting, and I'm feeling getting a little bit caught up in it because I'm really feeling it coming up in like my root chakra and my sacral chakra. And so it feels like there's a lot of it that you're still working through, you're still moving in. And I'm wanting to encourage opportunity for a bit of space and a bit of movement. So it feels like potentially, I don't know if the renovations that you have happening are in some way, they're definitely unrooting you. That's why the root chakra is coming in. And I'm wanting to make sure that I have the space to do the work that I'm doing. And the other part that I'm seeing is it feels like there's a bit of like transporting out of the environment that you're in. So the feeling that I have is rather than maintaining, like staying static with where you are, it feels like it's important to make sure that you're getting outside of your work environment while renovations are happening, and that's going to help facilitate the work that you're doing. But things are feeling a little bit stuck. And I'm really feeling the need, as I said, to bring some movement into things because things are feeling really rigid and I'm feeling kind of at odds as well. And I kind of have the sense that like I've got stress rising and tension rising. It doesn't feel like it's going to be this way forever, but that you are going to need to initiate some of that change, some of that movement, whether that is for the project overall or whether that's just for you. I can't tell. But if there is any opportunity for you to make shifts and to make change in the renovation project in terms of getting things going or moving things faster or creating more balance, then I'd encourage you to do that. If that is outside of your control, then make sure that you're doing things for yourself that help to feel like you do have more freedom and flexibility. So again, like I see creating space for you to work as being something that's important, and that there might be some aspect where you are moving yourself out of your workspace and into another space in order to get things done. And it feels like there's a lot of openness that happens with that. And I am hearing that the renovations that are happening, they feel like they are worthwhile in the long run. So do keep moving forward with them if you have any decision around that. And we've got some jumpers that have come up for you. So we've got cards. Oh, interesting. So as I said, or I didn't say, but we have two cards that have jumped out for you. So these are from the Archangel Oracle card deck. The first one that we have here is the compassion card. So this card is encouraging compassion. In order to share compassion with someone else, we first need to have compassion for ourselves. If we don't have compassion for ourselves, there's no capacity to share compassion with others. So be compassionate with yourself and compassionate with everybody else in the situation, recognizing that everybody's doing the best that they can with the resources that they have, and that sometimes our best isn't in the moment, isn't what is needed, but that's what we have. So we work with it and we do the best that we can. And we make adjustments and arrangements where we can as well. So it might not be the ideal, but it's better than where we are. The second card that we have here, I love this one. It's the All Is Well card. And basically it says that things might be feeling chaotic and disorganized on like the surface level, but there is an underlying balance that we just don't see right now. Just trust, have faith, and know that everything is happening as it needs to. And again, I see where the compassion is needed. This is an Archangel Jophiel card, and Archangel Jophiel also helps and supports us with life review. So it could be in a time where things are maybe feeling outside of the usual routine, that it's important to take a look at what are our priorities. So, for example, like in a home, maybe there are a whole pile of things that we need to do, and usual day to day, we're able to get those things done. But you throw a couple of extra challenges into that, and suddenly sweeping the bathroom floor isn't as important as doing something else. And so prioritization might be part of what you're focusing on as the work renovation is happening. But as I said, it does feel like it's something worthwhile. Look for adjustments where you can, and work to getting unstuck. So whether that's something you can do to get the project moving, awesome, or if this is something for yourself. Awesome. Kiyomi, it was such a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. And we're sending Archangel Michael your way too. Archangel Michael is really great with building and projects and getting things done like that. So call on Archangel Michael for help and support. Let me see. So we've got Marilyn here. Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for joining us. So Marilyn's wondering, what do I need to know to heal my back and fatigue? And I see that she chose the Smoky Quartz card. And let's take a look and see what we have. So when I ask about fatigue, the first thing that I'm hearing, and I mean, like this feels like it's kind of silly to say because I assume that this is something you've already tried, but I'm seeing the need to rest, to slow down, to rest. And I noticed that at the end here, you've asked, do I need to seek out new clients? And it feels like yes and no. It feels like part of what you're needing to do, like part of the fatigue that I'm seeing is it feels like there's a lot of the same and a lot of the same kind of depletion. And it feels like it's important to come into a place where you're aware of who it is that you're wanting to help and who you're wanting to work with and who you're wanting to support. So I'm actually seeing a reprioritizing of the people that you're working with and interacting and engaging with. And I had completely forgotten which card came up for Smoky Quartz, but it's hitting me over the head. It was the self-care card. And in the self-care card, we talked about, like the relaxation and making sure that you're taking care of your like basic physical needs and that type of thing. But also the self-care message was not procrastinating and to focus on other things that are important outside of like massage and sea salt bath and all of those wonderful, amazing self-care tools. And it feels like that's a big part of what you're focusing on. And that I see that having, it feels like it helps to relieve some of the tension and the difficulty that you're experiencing in your back. It does feel like physiologically there is something that's going on. So I am wanting to encourage you to work with like physio or chiropractor or pop in to see your doctor, because it does feel like there is something that is out of balance that is there that is going to need a bit of help and support outside of the things that we're suggesting. But when you focus on your priorities and who you're most wanting to work with, it feels like that changes and it has an effect on the fatigue component. And once the fatigue starts to deplete or degrade or no longer be the issue that it is at the moment, then everything else starts to come into place. And I'm seeing that you've got some angels that are working with you too. I've got Archangel Raphael popping up really strongly, and he's going into the musculature as opposed to like the spine. So I'm kind of wondering if there might be like stretching or something along those lines that's needing to be done in like tissue or tendon or ligament. Yes, so we've got Archangel Raphael, you've got Archangel Michael, and Archangel Jeremiel is there as well. So you've got lots of support that's coming up to help you with what you're working on. And, you know, I noticed with the card that we've pulled for you, this is Archangel Jophiel with the Clear Your Space card. And Archangel Jophiel is also the angel who comes up with the Outdoors card. So she's popped up a lot for us this evening. 2 of the 3 cards in this deck that are hers have come out in our readings. So just in general, know that Archangel Jophiel is definitely very present and around all of us right now. So as I said earlier, Archangel Jophiel does help and support us in changing our mindset. So when we're in a place of challenge or we're feeling stuck, Archangel Jophiel can help and support us in finding the things that are beautiful. And so she's talking about clearing your space. So clearing your space, this is coming up on a physical level, but it's also coming through from like a mental and emotional point of view as well. Like we hold space within ourselves, within our bodies, within our mind. And a big part of the message that's coming up is to make sure that you are cleaning and clearing that out on a regular basis. So now might be a really great time to do some journaling or to do some vision boarding or to talk to a counselor or to talk to a really good friend or to talk to a colleague, that there's stuff that's needing to get out and that's going to really help and support you with the clearing and the fatigue that you're dealing with too. Marilyn, it was such a pleasure connecting with you this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Sending big hugs, lots of love, and support your way. Let me see. We've got Becky here. Hi, Becky. So Becky is asking, we were wondering if it would be a good idea to go overseas and work in a South Asian country or stay here on Quadra and hunker down. And if on Quadra still, is there something that's coming up? Okay, let's take a look and see where you are going and what you are doing. I'm not saying no to South Asia. But there's something that's holding you here a little bit longer. So when I ask about South Asia, I'm hearing September as being a time that's feeling it's feeling like you've done what you needed to do. You've looked at all of your options where you are. And it's like at that point we're ready to heave ho. And so actually the water is coming up as being really significant. So there's some aspect of being on or around Quadra Island that is feeling healing, it's feeling supportive, and it's feeling like it's kind of where you're needing to be. But what I'm seeing is something that looks like it's temporary. So it doesn't feel like you're going to be there for very long. And I feel like you're focusing less on where are we going to put down our roots long term. And it feels like it's more like, okay, where are we going to be for the next 3 or 4 months while we tie up these loose ends, while we enjoy being where we are. Quadra is a really beautiful place, and it feels like there's some aspect of enjoying like the summer months and being there. So what do we want to experience here before we head off on like our next adventure and the next thing that we're doing? Teaching in South Asia, I feel an opening. It doesn't feel like it's going to be where you're going to be forever, but it feels like it's going to be a good place for you for an extended period of time. So not just yet, but it will come up soon. And where are we going to go? We're going to go to the messages, pardon me, the mermaids and dolphins. And we're just going to ask, what does Becky need to know about, oops, I just noticed that we have a yellow card that's tied in there. We might pull that, you know what, we're pulling that card too, because it stuck out for a reason. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we've got 2 cards here for you. The first card, this is the mermaids and dolphins card, is the self-forgiveness card. So that says to me that there is some sort of healing that's happening here on Quadra, and it feels like that was part of the purpose and the reason to be there. It's helping to really refine and refocus what it is that you are wanting to do, what you're wanting to focus on, and part of that is something that's happening on a healing level. How can I How can I offer myself love, support, and compassion right now? What can I do to open this space up for myself? And then the next card that we have, I laugh because I obviously put it back in the wrong spot, but it stuck out because it needed to come out. And we have the Archangel Jophiel card again. So I'll go over this one fairly quickly because we've talked about it several times now. This is the clear your space card. So there is a need to clear your space on a physical level. This could be releasing things that no longer serve you, that no longer support you on physical level. Part of what I'm seeing is that these might be bigger things. Like this feels like this is not just, clearing out your home, but it feels like there are bigger things that you are physically releasing and letting go of. So this might be a vehicle or something else that is big along those terms, along those lines. And it feels also like this is something that's just tying things up. So there might be something that is holding you to another person or that is in some other way kind of tying down. But it's coming up time to release this, to let this go so that everybody can move forward. And I'm wanting to say, so everybody can start moving forward. What else do we have coming up with Archangel Jophiel? She's saying she's helping to find you. She's helping to find you beautiful spots, which is really interesting because Jophiel isn't necessarily like a finding angel. Archangel Samuel would be one who I would call on for help with finding a place or a space. But Archangel Jophiel is really popping through strongly, and she's showing me finding little cozy little spots, really beautiful little spots that you're able to make your own, that you're able to heal in, that you're able to enjoy. And there is very definitely a fluidity that is coming up with this too. Becky, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. You guys, we've come to the end of our evening this evening. I'm so incredibly grateful that you joined me. I'm Erin Lee of heavenlymessenger.com. And oh, one more thing before I forget. It has been so long since I've been connecting and interacting on social media that I haven't shared that my good friend Bobby Roundtree and we've done a couple of videos where we've been sharing things. We've started a new page. It's called Universal Connections. You can find it at facebook.com/Universal Connections. We have some interviews that we're going to be sharing there. Before I hopped on the show this evening, Bobby and I were texting back and forth and talking about the first person that we're going to be interviewing and when we're going to be setting that up. Bobby is really amazing at sharing things on social media where I am not. So she's been posting stuff and sharing stuff and lots of little insights. And over the next little while, I plan to also be doing that as well. So please come and join us, Universal Connections. And we also have the website, universalconnections.ca. It's still a work in progress, but you can find our previous videos there as well. Thank you again so much for joining me. I'm Erin Lee of heavenlymessenger.com. If you would like to connect for your own personal reading, you can do so at bookingwitherin.com. There are still a couple of spaces for this week and lots of availability next week. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way, and look forward to seeing you next week live as well. Have a great evening.